Hello everyone. So I'm Dio Villanueva, I'm a chess coach, and in today's video, I'm gonna show you a hard lesson that it took me, I don't know, 8 years to learn, and it cost me hundreds of points. And actually, it's a simple thing that once I could understand it, I made a lot of progress, and also I overcame 2000. I became a 23, 24, 2400 rated player on chess.com. And today I want to show you this. And it's all about the middle game and how to play the middle game much, much better. Okay? And today I want to show you three middle game positions, three typical scenarios that can happen, and how will you manage them. I'm going to ask you how you would manage those situations, and I'm going to give you some feedback. Okay? I'm going to show you games from 1600 rated players, 2000 rated players, and 3200 rated players. And you'll see what is the number one thing, what is the number one mistake that is, that they all share. So let's talk about this first game where, they are in the opening, and in this position, black made a simple move, he castled. And white here could play something like knight f3, for example, continuing with the development. Maybe queen c2, maybe pawn takes, maybe bishop a3, developing moves, right? But instead, this player, who is a 1500 rated player, made the move pawn to h4, which is a typical situation, right? You're playing the opening, and in the early opening, your opponent, instead of finishing his development, he pushes a pawn like this, very aggressively, right? Very aggressively against the king, pawn to h4. Clearly, your opponent wants to push, he wants to create like a pawn storm against your king. How you would react in this situation? I've made a lot of research, and I see that there's a pattern in the chess community. There are people that don't know how to defend well against this type of attacks, and they tend to panic a bit. So here's the thing. Every time your opponents are attacking you like this aggressively, most likely, instead of panicking, you have to first validate the idea, if it's right or wrong. And most of the time, when your opponents are attacking you this way, they don't have a plan. They have an idea, but that doesn't mean the plan is going to land properly, because they are lacking something important. They are lacking development, right? So the best thing you can do here is to develop your pieces. There is a concept I teach my students that is called build up. Build up. Every time you don't know what to do, every time you feel uncomfortable against a move and you don't have an idea, just think about the build-up phase. The build-up comes from the concept of the build-up strategy. The build-up strategy is every move, every plan, every idea that helps you to build up your position, that helps you to improve your position. In the context of the opening, a build-up move would mean a move that allows you to improve your position a bit, developing your pieces, for example, controlling the center, attacking the center, putting your king on a safer square. Okay, h4 doesn't fit in a build-up strategy, because how does h4 helps white? The knight is still on g1, the bishop is still on c1, the king is still in the middle. h4 doesn't help anything, and still white made this move. So this move is basically hope chess. So instead of panicking when your opponent attacks you, remember, build up, build up, build up, build up. All right. I'll show you. Here, black plays the move h6. Not a good move, because your opponent is going to try to attack you this way. So if he makes, for example, g4 and g5, he's going to reach g5, gaining a tempo on your knight and on the and attacking the pawn. Most likely, you will have to take back. Once he takes, this h file is going to get open. Here's the thing. As a general rule, when you're playing this type of positions, don't push pawns in front of your king. Okay, if you see a pawn storm is coming at you, try to avoid pawn moves, unnecessary pawn moves. Okay, there are two big enemies, or there are more, but actually there are two common mistakes I see in the build-up phase: unnecessary pawn moves and unnecessary trades. Okay, trades like trading pieces, right? h6 clearly is an unnecessary move. Here's a pawn move that I would like, pawn b6, for example. I would prefer pawn b6 in this position. I'll show you later how you could get an advantage from this move. But essentially, the idea of this pawn move is to play c5 later and attack the black center. Okay, and I'll show you why this move works pretty well. But that's not the only good move you have at hand. You could play rook e8, putting the rook on the same file. Knight e7 is another build-up move. It allows you to help the position of the knight, but not h6. h6 just creates more weaknesses around your king, and it's not helping you to build up your position. Again, what to do when all of a sudden your opponent attacks you in the opening with a premature attack? Build up. Build up is the solution, all right? And this is the lesson it cost me many years to learn, because I was the type of player that used to panic a lot when I was in front of an attack, right? But he's rushing the attack, so it's not good. Well, h6, I'm gonna show you what happened. White played the move g4, and black played the move knight e4. Okay, it's fine. Knight e4 is fine, but then white played the move queen to c2. You see? And here, once again, you should start developing your pieces. In this position, I really like pawn to c5, attacking the center. I previously mentioned something about c5. c5. Here's when you study some middle game concepts, there is this concept that says that when your opponent attacks you in what area of the board, in this case in the king side, try to react in a different area. In this case, the center or the queen side, right? But you need to accelerate an attack in the other part of the board. Otherwise, your opponent is going to attack. He's going to open lines. And if you don't react in other area of the board, you will lack counterplay. And if a side is attacking, he's going to feel very comfortable if he doesn't have to deal against any counterplay. So c5 is a move I really like. However, here black played the move queen f6. I don't like too much queen f6 because after this move, I get that you're trying to create a threat here, but your opponent can develop his knight, so now he can make a build-up, and now queen f2 is not possible. And now what's your plan? What's your plan, right? If you try to play c5 right now, your opponent can continue with g5. And notice how this knight is very important, because after this move, let's say that black takes, white takes. If you take with a knight, I mean, I can take your knight, right? And let's say knight takes g4, knight takes knight, queen takes knight, and then queen h7, and that's a checkmate. So it's not a good idea, right? It's not a good idea at all. So in this position, let's go back here. Let's go to this moment. Queen f7 wasn't the best move. Oh, and what happened, by the way, in this position, this player didn't have other options. He made a blunder. Okay, maybe I don't know what was going on in the mind of this player, but maybe he didn't find a plan that he liked. He saw g5 coming, and he tried to complicate the game a bit, maybe. And he played pawn to c4, and well, that's a blunder because that move allows queen takes c4, and the game is over. You're gonna lose a piece for nothing, and that's what happened. Which is very interesting because this guy is not a beginner. He's a 1700 rated player, and still he made a mistake. And this brings me to the reflection that when you don't know what to do, that's usually when you make a mistake, because it's in this moment of uncertainty where, since you don't have a navigation system, if you don't have a systematic approach to navigate that position and orient yourself in a situation when there are multiple answers, multiple possibilities, people tend to panic. People tend to make mistakes here, okay? Blunders don't occur necessarily in a moment where, because you are distracted or you're unfocused. They happen most of the time because you don't know what to do, and that pressure, that feeling like of being uncomfortable with the position you have in front of you, leads you to overthink, or leads you to, be less careful about some stuff, and that's how you make mistakes. And actually, the lesson that cost me many years to understand is that if I want to improve my game, I need a navigation system. I need a way of orienting myself in a position when there are too many good moves. And for me, remembering that I need to build up, helped me to avoid these mistakes, and also helped me to punish the mistakes from my opponent. Now, let's take a look at this position again. My opponent makes a move h4. I would try to hit the center. c5 directly is a nice move. I would play b6. If my opponent continues with g4, I would play pawn to c5. And you'll see, if my opponent starts trading in the center, that's good for me because I can open lines. Most likely, I would expect g5. I have knight e4 attacking on c3. If you notice, this is very similar to what happened in the game. Very similar, but I save up a tempo with my queen and with my pawn. I didn't make the unnecessary pawn move, and I didn't play queen here. And since I didn't do that, I gained some tempos here, and now I'm attacking. If my opponent plays queen c2, now I can develop on c6. And again, build up, build up, build up. I don't need to do anything special. And from here, I don't know if my opponent has too many good options. For example, if my opponent plays f3 because this knight is uncomfortable, I can go to g3. And this knight is beautiful here. I'm attacking this. And if he goes like this, I can attack this. And I don't know, I think black's position is completely fine. Okay, and I'm going to show you something similar, an idea I was considering here. Let's say that here, white plays the move bishop d3 to get rid of this knight. Then I can take, and after pawn takes e4, knight to b4. And I mean, this didn't happen. I'm just showing you what could happen if you play this position well. Now I'm attacking this queen, I'm attacking this bishop. If you are a d4 player, you know how important this bishop is. So it sucks when your opponent forces you to trade that bishop. And let's say white plays queen e2, takes. You know, all of a sudden your opponent attacked you, but that attack is not going anywhere. And here, with a build-up move, you can get an advantage. Pause the video for 10 seconds, and let's see if you can find it. Well, yeah. With a build-up move, again, build-up. What is build-up? The build-up strategy is every move, every plan, every idea that helps you to improve your position, right? In this position, if you scan the board, you'll see that this is playing, kind of, but this bishop is not playing, for example, right? How can you play it? Bishop d7, bishop b7, or bishop a6. All of these moves could be considered build-up moves, but bishop a6 has something else, which is attacking this pawn and attacking the queen. You can take because bishop takes queen, obviously, right? But if white cannot take, then you can take on c4 and you're gonna gain a pawn. For example, bishop a3, right? Bishop a3, sorry. Bishop a3, bishop c4, queen c2, and rook e8. And after this, black is much better, right? With an extra pawn, this rook is coming here as part of the build-up, and this attack never landed, okay? So, the most important thing in a situation where you don't know what to do is don't even think about what is the move, what should I play, what should I play, what should I play. Don't add stress on your shoulders. Just remember that you should improve your position. Build up. Start associating the concept of the build up. That's going to give you a sense of orientation. Most of the mistakes that happen in chess happen because of the lack of orientation, the lack of certainty. Okay, because that feeling is very annoying, and most people don't know what to do when that happens. So build up is the option, and we're going to train that concept in the next positions. Let me show you another situation here. This game is between a 2200 rated player and a 1700 rated player. The 2200 rated player got the white pieces, and now it's black to move, the 1700 rated player. I have to say this game was very close, and the material is equal. White just played king e2. The idea is to bring the rook into the game, and it's black to move, right? Now, try to use the stuff you're learning today, the build-up, right? Scan your position, think about the pieces you could improve, okay? And try to make a build-up move here. It's black to move. We're going to see the best move here and also what happened in the game. Take your time. In this case, I would recommend you to pause the video for 30 seconds. Don't overthink about it, just make your move, but try to apply the stuff you're learning today. Okay. The move here for black was knight d4. We're going to take a look at knight d4 in a second. But a move that I really like for black is, first of all, you need to understand that not all your pieces are participating in the game. Well, this knight is protecting this knight is attacking the center, this bishop from a8 is attacking this whole diagonal, But if you have to improve your pieces, I would say you need to improve this bishop. It's developed, but it's not very active. And especially this rook, because the rook is not doing anything at all. So one build-up move I really like for black is rook b8, attacking b2. And if you found rook b8 because you were applying the build-up strategy or the build-up mindset, you are on the good track, okay? Very good, very good. So rook b8 is such a great move because you're attacking on b2. If your opponent has to do something about it, right? So let's say white plays pawn to b3. Well, from here you have many interesting options. You could play, for example, knight a5, attacking this bishop, attacking this rook. And now the position gets very interesting because this bishop is going to have this diagonal. You're attacking here. Let's say white plays the move, I don't know, rook a1. Very interesting move because if you take and rook takes, this rook a8 check, right? Again, knight takes, bishop takes, rook a8. But you can always take here, and after this, you can play f6, and now you are solving your problems. For example, pawn takes, and after, for example, knight e3, pawn to f5, now your pieces are playing. Okay, I wouldn't say here black is much worse. The position is equal. The position is very equal. For example, rook here, you can play bishop takes, king takes maybe, and simply knight b6 attacking on c4. The game is equal, like bishop takes e5, knight takes e5. This is going to be very equal. Most likely it's going to end in a draw. And I'm showing you the best moves for both players, all right? Most likely one of these sides are going to make a mistake at some point. But my point is, rook b8 keeps the chances equal for both sides, all right? And that's it. You don't have to play a perfect match, a perfect game to win your games. You don't have to, all right? You just need to make less mistakes than your opponent. But it's very easy to make a mistake when there are so many good options. We previously talked about unnecessary pawn moves and unnecessary trades. What are the number one enemies to good moves? Unnecessary pawn moves, unnecessary trades. There's one more, which is unnecessary checks, unnecessary critical or forcing moves. Here I need to make a parenthesis to talk about what is a forcing or a forcing move for a critical moment. A forcing move in chess is a move that triggers a forcing reaction for the opponent. That could be a check, that could be a capture, that could be a threat. Well, if you make a check, your opponent is forced to react to the check, right? And most of the time, our mind registers these moves, and for some reason, the mind tends to put those moves or tag those moves are good options, all right? And in this position, for example, black played the move knight d4 check. And the idea is interesting. And I'm very sure that black here spent some time thinking about why knight d4 works, but it doesn't work, sadly. Because after knight d4, knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes e4, bishop takes g2, bishop takes e4, bishop takes e2. I'm pretty sure that here black calculated all of this, and he was like, okay, I can open the position, I can get rid of my pawn on c5, my bishop is more active. But the thing that he didn't see is that after this, okay, in this position, for example, this rook is in the same file, so he played rook knight to b8, which is not a good move. Again, think about it in terms of the buildup. You want to improve your pieces. Going backwards is not a sign of a buildup. Most of the time, going backwards is not a good thing. There are of course, there are exceptions. There are moments where you can go backwards temporarily. But here, black is not playing knight b8 because he has a master plan. It's more like because he wants to avoid any tactics, which is okay. But the problem is that after bishop c5, attacking this pawn, and knight c6, white is playing b4. And the thing that white or the black player wasn't considering when he started the forcing sequence with knight d4 check, in this position, the thing that he wasn't considering is that after b4 and this sequence, your opponent, yeah, you both have same material, but your opponent has a pass pawn on the queen side, and he has a very strong setup with bishops that are going to very helpful to push this pawns. Like b5 is coming, and then I'm going to take your pawn. And what happened here is that black played rook d8, which is a blunder, because after rook takes and knight takes, white has bishop e7, and now white is winning with that extra pawn. You see, this pass pawn is more than enough to win the game. Okay? And what's my point with all of this, guys? Most of the time when you will have checks, and this is a natural reaction, don't feel bad if you're the type of player that does this mistake, because you don't have any idea of how many chess games I have studied. As a chess coach in the last 8 years, I have studied maybe more than 10,000 games for my students. And apart from the unnecessary pawn moves and the unnecessary trades, I see unnecessary checks. It's like, hey, dude, you have this position, just improve your position. I know you have 10 different moves you could play. You could play h5, you could play here, you could play e6, you could play knight e4, you could play knight a5, but focus on those moves that will help your pieces. Scan your position, think about those pieces that are worse positioned, and improve those, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else, okay? And if there is a move you really want to make, but that move doesn't help you, then filter the move out. Maybe you can be like, Diego, I want to play e6, because if I don't play e6, he's going to play e6 attacking my knight, and I don't like that. All right, but if you play e6, are you, like, is your rook improving? Is this bishop improving? Not necessarily. I can improve my rook on a1, right? And then what are you going to do? I'm improving the rook. Okay, now I can play rook b8, I guess. Yeah, but it's not the same because my rook is here. I have an advantage. I can play knight d3, and then what are you going to do? I'm not saying white is much better, but it's the cost of opportunity. Chess can be very overwhelming, harder if you are not clear on these ideas. So let me show you what happened here. Yeah, I mean, yeah, in this position, rook b8 should be the move, right? And I get it. Sometimes it's hard to make these moves, even though they're simple, because there are so many options. And that's why it's important that you invest your time building up a proper navigation system. Because in chess, there are so many things. But if you have a well-established navigation system that helps you to make the right decisions at the right time, I promise you, middle games are going to be very easy. And also, they will be, you will find better moves. And at least, maybe your moves won't be great, but at least you are not going to make mistakes. And again, you don't need to play perfect game. Like, you don't need to play like a computer. You just need to make less mistakes than your opponent to win a game. Facts. That's a fact. Next game. Man, you don't know how many years I wasted because I didn't internalize this concept. Oh my god. So many years reading books and accumulating theory where I could start practicing this, right? Okay, in this position is white to move. Now we're talking about people that are more, stronger. This is a game between two 2200 rated players, okay? And it's white to move, all right? I just want to show you that you could expect that a 2200 player is much, much better than you. And yeah, I mean, if you want to become a 2200 rated player, you need to accumulate a bunch of important skills. But the gap beyond the rating is more like in the type of the skills, right? These guys know things, but also they know how to translate those knowledge into skills, basically. And they're good. Like, I'm a 2400, 2500 rated player, and I got paired from time to time against 2200s, and they're tough. They're tough. But still, they have some things to improve. And in this position, I'll show you what happened, okay? First, I'm going to show you what happened. Here, white played the move queen e1. I don't think that move is bad. I think it's a very interesting move. You want to improve the queen. Most likely, the queen wants to go to g3, okay? And black played the move bishop e6. right? Bishop e6. And in this position, again, if you apply the concept of the build-up, that means bringing more pieces into the game. You have the bishop on h6, which is a great bishop. You have a knight on f3, a rook on f1, right? The queen on e1, but you need to bring the rest of your pieces. In this position, there are two pieces I would like to bring. The knight on c3 that is not participating, and you can do it with knight e2, knight f4, right? Or maybe moving the queen somewhere else and bring another piece into the game, right? But here, white didn't have this clarity, and he went into a very different direction by playing bishop d7. And I get this move. You want to be annoying, right? You want to be annoying. But sometimes you don't want to reveal your hand very quickly. Because by making this move, your opponent plays rook g8, gaining a tempo. And now if you go back, then why did you play bishop d7, right? You have to go to f6. But here's the thing. Your opponent has two main issues, or three, I would say. The first one is the kid in the center. The second one is the lack of development of the knight. And the third thing is the lack of a space. By lack of a space, I mean, how d4 and e5 are dominating a bunch of good squares in the center. And when that happens, and that's part of the middle game theory as well, when you are leading the game with these concepts plus a space advantage, you don't want to make a bunch of trades. You don't want to trade pieces, because if your opponent has less space than you, he will struggle to find good squares in the few territory he's controlling. But if you start trading pieces, he has less space than you, but if you trade pieces, he can optimize the little space he has because he's getting rid of pieces. Essentially, that's the logic. I hope that makes sense. And what happened here is that black traded here, and he also won a pawn. After 95, unnecessarily, white gave up a pawn. And I mean, white is still better because the knight on b8 is pretty bad, and the king on e8 is also bad king. But, white still won the game, but it's not very, very, very good. Like, he played knight g4, and after queen g4, black played king. In this position, black had to play king f7, and the game is not very clear. Like, here he made a mistake, but he had to play king f7, in fact. King f7. And for example, let's say you bring the rook, right? Queen d6. And now how are you going to continue? I don't know. Queen h4 maybe, attacking this, right? Maybe. But you can play here. And if you take rook g7. And the question is white really much better? I wouldn't say so. Like, same number of pawns, same number of development. The rook is coming into the game as well. White is not better. White is not better here. He won the game in a different variation because black messed it up. But I'm going to show you what is more ideal. Let's talk about this position, and let's talk about the build-up. How could you optimize your position quickly? I would prefer the move queen d2 instead of queen e1. Just so you can connect your rooks. Let's say your opponent makes a move bishop b7. Now that the queen and the bishop are connected, you can play knight g5, attacking f7. How can you defend that? If bishop takes, for example, bishop takes, right? My computer is kind of laggy. Queen d7, and I'll show you. I ask you, think in terms of build-up, please. Don't make anything crazy, just build up. Pause the video for 10 seconds and try to find a build-up move that allows you to contribute with your position. Well, I hope you pause the video. e6 is a wonderful move, but there's no need to sacrifice yet. I prefer rook a e1. If you found rook a e1, let me applaud you. Good job. And that move by itself is enough to win the game, because how can you stop this? If your opponent makes, for example, queen e6, you have rook f6. And I don't know, like queen d7, e6, pawn takes, rook takes, and that's it, right? That's it. You can't survive this. You can't survive this. So essentially, this is how you could win the game. White is winning from now. And again, like, what is the lesson? What is the lesson from all this stuff? You need, like, the middle game is the most difficult part of the game. It's not even the openings. And nowadays, most people are putting so much time, so much effort into learning new openings, and it's okay. Like, of course, knowing openings are going to help you with a bunch of stuff, but middle game is all about the game sense. It's all about learning better strategies. It's all about grabbing a position where nothing happens and turn it into a position where you're crushing your opponent. And if you know how to do that properly, you're gonna win most of your games, right? But you need a navigation system, because without a navigation system, you're going to struggle. There are so many options. And I hope all this makes sense. And if you're interested, let me tell you that I have made a course called the Middle Game Navigation Playbook. In this course, you'll see how I use the build-up concept to make simple decisions, simple moves that allow me to crush opponents 1800s, 2000s, 2200s. And it's very, very simple. All this stuff is easy to learn and easy to get, but it's time for you to put that in practice. And how do you practice it? I'll teach you that in the course. It's just $5 and you can get it in the link below. And if you want to, actually it's $5 because I'm running a promo during this month. So you can get it for $5. It's not going to have that price forever. So I recommend you to go and take a look at it. And I'm pretty sure you're going to enjoy it because it's very simple. I hate when middle game concepts or courses are like, hey, learn these 50 middle game patterns in this 50-hour course. And man, you don't necessarily have all the time in the world to learn that. And most likely when you are in lesson number 8, you already forgot lesson number 2. And all these courses are all based on theory, but there's no practice. This course is 100% practical and you will love it. So go take a look. You'll see how to get this skill, because one thing is to have the theory and another thing is to have the skill. I'll teach you how to have that skill. Anyways, if you enjoy this and this makes a lot of sense for you, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like it. And if you found any of these moves, let me know in the comments. Hey Diego, I found rook 8e1. Hey Diego, I found rook b1, rook b8, or I found another move. Share your experience. I would love to know it. So that's pretty much it for today, and see you in the next videos. Bye.